Okay, so the fourth chapter in Tableau Your Data is going to bring us to calculations and discussion of aggregation, parameters, and other things inside of this that are relevant. Why do we need to talk about calculations in the first place? So sometimes your data set is raw and it doesn't have the things that you need. For example, for so my data sets tend to be like psych survey stuff where you have a lot of questions around the same thing. Like say you're measuring personality, you've got 5 different questions that are trying to get at the same thing, and so you need to create a mean for those questions, so you know what is the score for that one question, or for that one construct, instead of just looking at it question by question. Sometimes you need to know simple things like what are the demographic splits? They answered my survey. Like I need to know if my sample is representative of the population. So how many people identified as male, female, or a non-binary, or anything else in there, or just chose not to respond. What are the racial breakdowns? Because we don't want it to be just representative of one single group. What are the education makeups, whatever we're doing there, right? If you're looking at like sales and things like that, a lot of times you'll need to like calculate differences between like looking at like take the number of like the sales numbers for everything that was sold, like actually like do the summations for that, like calculate like the profit based off of the the cost of the items, things like that. So there's a lot of reasons why we need calculations. The calculations in Tableau are very, very, very similar to Excel. Some of them are very similar to SQL stuff as well. So if you have some background in some of those, that's helpful. For the project, we do have to have at least one visualization, include calculations. This might be within a table, this could be within a graph. It doesn't matter as long as you have at least one calculation that you did. They didn't just pull from the data, and it appears in something. These don't have to be complicated though. So if you're not very advanced at this, I don't want you to like pull your hair out trying to figure out complex things. If you are good at these, I do encourage you to stretch yourself and do cool things, and just like, yeah, learn how to do something that you don't know how to do yet with these. Okay, all that saying, back to the slide. So calculations actually do add in a new column to your data using mathematical formulas. I say mathematical formulas to frame it, but it also can include things that we don't think of traditionally as math, such as if-then statements. When they talk about aggregation, they're not just talking about sums. Just like with the SQL, it's an expansive term that means any of the calculations like averages and like count as and standard deviations and variance calculations, all that kind of stuff. The parameters are the variables in the formulas. So when you're actually looking at your data, if you have a field for age, that is the parameter they're using in the formula. What do you need in order to create these formulas? You need to have very good familiarity with your data, which makes throwing random data sets at you and asking you to like think of a calculation to do kind of complicated, because for you to do like math and stuff, you have to have an understanding of what's going on. You need to know exactly what outcome you're trying to produce, and then you need to understand the syntax for the specific calculation that you want, because sometimes you think you're doing something and you're not doing what you think you're going to do, what you're trying to do. And all of that takes a lot of practice if you aren't used to these things. So give yourself some time and leeway in trying to figure this out, because this part of it can be a little more complicated than some of the other charts and stuff that we do. So what functions are actually supported? So while inside of Tableau, if you just, click on the things, it gives you the list and stuff. Our textbook does give us this whole big appendix, and so it has so gives function category stuff, but down here we've got oh yeah, and like I mentioned, SQL can be involved in this. There is R integration, so those of us who know R, you can play around with that. I would consider that a little bit more advanced work, though, probably out of scope for your short amount of time in this class. Okay, so there's a list of function names. And you can see that they've got a lot of stuff. You probably recognize, if you're very familiar with Excel, probably recognize some of this stuff. And then each of these have an explanation, so it gives you the syntax. Even though it'll prompt you, this kind of gives you it gives you a little bit deeper explanation for it. So if you're having trouble with Tableau's interface by itself, this should be able to help you figure it out a little bit. Okay, cool. So yeah, don't forget that that's a resource. So Tableau can do two types of calculations. It can do the calculated field, and it can do what's called a table calculation. Calculated fields are usually done by directly entering a field into the formula editing dialog box. This is the doing it completely manually style. I'm gonna pause for a second, pull up Tableau. Okay, so this is the example database that they have, or not database, Tableau workbook that they have for the Tableau Your Data. So if we want to create calculated fields, there's two places to go. Well, three technically, but easiest two. So if you go to analysis, you can create a calculated field right there. Brings you to this lovely super blank canvas. So you name your thing here, and then you put your formula here. Gotta admit, the first time I opened this up, I'm like, I named the thing and I pushed it okay. I'm like, why isn't it doing anything? Like, where's the rest of it? This little thing, I think the first time you open it, it comes closed. If you want a list of all the things that it can do, so like all of our aggregation mathy things are counts, and you can do like median, maxes, minimums, percentiles, all that kind of stuff is in here. But it's got other stuff in there. You can even do your table calculations in here as well. So obviously this is a super not valid calculation. The other place to find that is if you click here, you also have a create calculated field box. You also have create parameters, and you can see here, if you go to the analysis, you can actually see all of the calculated fields that this workbook has total. You can also see these same ones if you look on the side here. So you see the running sum calc has this little equal sign next to the hash mark, that tells us that it's a calculated field. So when I'm looking at your workbook for your project, I'm going to be looking for at least one of these symbols to show me that you did a thing. When you right click on these, you can edit it and it brings it back over here. So you can see here that this one is actually table calc. It's named for that, so we know. You can see that it uses basically, yeah, this is one that's a nested calculations, but we have the sum of the sales, and then it's got a running sum on top of that. So we could edit it from here. Here they've got one that looks a lot more complicated because they're using it to basically like filter, so it's an if and statement. So if it's sales, then do this thing. If it's not sales, or if it's profit, then do this. Yeah, so you can use the calculation general function for multiple things. Probably what you're most likely to use it for are actual mathematical aggregation type things, like calculating differences between two different fields or something. Okay, calculated fields. Okay, so you can do them that way. You can also directly enter them ad hoc right into the into these. So you can start a calculation up here. That's called ad hoc. It will function just the same as the other ones. Oops. Table calculations are specifically ones that apply to a particular visualization, so it doesn't really take into account extra filters and stuff that you have in place. And you saw a little bit of the table calculation. These ones, you can go into a calculation that's inside of your visualization, and you can see that there's options right here. So quick table calculation. You see some of them are grayed out because they won't apply, they won't do anything cool for you. Some of them you can do. So you can do it that way, or you can do it more manually that way. So that's how to click and find the spots for those. In order to get more practice and better understanding of what these are, I do highly suggest that you download the data set from the Tableau Your Data site and then follow along to recreate the demo, recreate the calculations that they do for the demo. So if you go to the website, hit chapter 4, it'll give you a zip file with these, and they go through a lot. That's going to take you a long time to go through them all, but at least the first ones I would suggest. Just get your feet wet, and so you can practice following along with a specific, like, do this, then this, to get this answer type of deal. You see that the way that the workbook is organized is that each of the tabs is a specific figure inside of the chapter. Okay, I did link a couple of extra videos and the Tableau websites inside of the notes for these 3 slides. If you need a little bit more of a walk along with those and more definitions beyond what the textbook gave you. So hopefully between those, depending on where you are in your familiarity with formulas and such, that will give you enough. The homework isn't going to be super complicated. But again, if you're used to this kind of stuff, then go ahead and do the more fun, interesting things and experiment.